Hello everybody, this is Warrior Dan and welcome to The Council. Now this is a 5-part episodic game taking place in what appears to be the late 1700s or early 1800s, featuring a wide array of both original characters and famous historical figures as well. You play as a main character who has been invited to an island to attend a party alongside many other celebrities who are all being entertained by one mysterious individual. However, you're going with a dual purpose, and the latter purpose being to discover the whereabouts of your mother who has gone missing. So you have the elements of a murder mystery game. You have everyone all together in this mansion that you can mostly freely explore. It is a fairly linear game, so there are certain sections of the manor that you are not allowed to explore, but overall, the game does give you a fair amount of liberty in how you want to pursue the objective. The game is very similar in many ways to the Telltale games, in that it is a choose-your-own-adventure game with many different possible outcomes and ramifications depending on what choices you make throughout the game. How you choose to interact with other characters may have major ramifications for you later in the game. The gameplay is a fair mix between cinematic cutscenes and time-based conversations, where in most of which you are trying to convince the other person to trust you, believe you, or do something for you. Wordplay is very important here. You have to pay close attention to what phrasing you decide to use, otherwise the other person may not decide to ally themselves with you. Among the historical figures you will see in this game are George Washington, the Pope, I don't remember which one to be honest. You have a Duchess and a couple other historical figures. You have Napoleon Bonaparte. I probably butchered his name, but to be honest, it's been about 10 years since I studied the history of France back in high school. But in any regard, you do get a lot of nods to a lot of different celebrities throughout history. So if you are a history buff, you will definitely enjoy a lot of the references and cameos over the course of this game. Now, I pre-ordered this game on humblebundle.com when it was first announced because, to me, I love games that offer a cinematic experience. And I do have to say this game does deliver. The set pieces are amazing. The visual art style is great. I do have some small squabbles with the lip syncing in this game because occasionally the lip syncing for these characters is not always adequate. The characters do have a habit of moving their lips longer than necessary. That's not perfectly tuned to the dialogue. But considering this can be fixed, I'm not overly concerned about it. And it's not so major and not so constant that you're going to notice it all the time, just during some key instances. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail on the story. I'm going to let you experience that on your own. All I can judge is the quality of where the gameplay meets the story, or vice versa, where the story meets gameplay. The story is, by and large, up to you for the most part, although there is a predetermined element to the game. A lot of the gameplay is fairly flexible and influenced by what choices you've made. Every episode ends with a consequence that you have determined for yourself. There are 2 major endings at the end of the game that you can choose from. You have a heroic ending and you have a selfish ending. This is not at all dissimilar from games like Life is Strange or Telltale's Game of Thrones, where you can either choose to act selfishly and compulsively, or you can choose to do the noble thing, and either way you're going to get punished for it, just in varying ways. All the voice acting is fairly well done here. Some of the voice acting can be a bit odd at times, but by and large I thought it was fairly good across the board. The main protagonist does have a bit of an annoying voice in my opinion, especially earlier on in the game, but as he begins to interact with other characters, it becomes less and less noticeable as you're paying more attention to those he interacts with rather than the character himself. All the characters do have fairly well elaborated backstories and personalities. You're going to want to spend as much time as you can with each character, and for a game that's heavily dependent on conversations with said characters, it's really important that you're able to believe that these people exist and find reason to talk to them. The pacing of the game is fairly good. I do feel at times the game does have a tendency to meander longer than necessary, specifically earlier at the beginning, but as you go on, the game starts to pick up the pace a little bit and make things a little bit more interesting. By introducing you to new characters, advancing the plot, giving you a little hint of mystery here and there, just to keep you interested in what happens next. Overall, I'm really interested to see how this storyline continues to play out. I think for both fans of the visual art style and fans of storytelling with a hint of murder mystery and alternate history, I do think you're going to like what you see here. This does have a bit of a National Treasure / Da Vinci Code vibe to me, so if you like uncovering clues and mysteries based in a setting of history, I think you're going to like what you find here. The console is currently available for $25 for the full season. You can find it on Steam and humblebundle.com. I do recommend picking it up. You get about 2 to 3 hours of content in this episode alone. It does have a rich skill tree system, which I'm not going to get into here, but it does add a little bit of diversity and replayability to the game, seeing as you can have multiple skill trees. However, I should add that you can only utilize one skill tree in every playthrough. You can choose to be essentially a mystic, a detective, or you can choose to be a politician. Personally, I decided to pick the politician one as it gives me some additional benefits, such as I am more skilled in conversation and it is easier to deceive other characters. Because of course, being a politician, tricking other people is kind of your forte. But in any case, this has been The Council. I hope you do take a look. I do recommend picking up. I'm not sponsored or anything when I say this. I just simply like the game. I'm curious to see what comes my way next. This is Warrior Dan signing out. Stay awesome, everybody, and peace out.